Um, Slogan "Stay wider of the rider" in my head is saying to motorists that make sure there's enough space between your car and available space for a rider to use. So yeah, I think make sure there's space available for people who are cycling. When I'm cycling, there are days I feel safe, there are days I don't, and I normally prefer cycling, with groups of people. That way we're more visible, and more often than not, we're using routes that are not so busy, or we're not cycling during peak hour traffic. So, I think, always work around what's going to make you safest on the road. That's what I find works. You know what? I think more often than not, motorists that have bicycles and motorcycles tend to be more aware of other cyclists and other people on motorbikes, for instance. And, some motorists simply don't care. Some motorists almost have an attitude that, listen, I've got this cage surrounding me, so, I'm going to be nonchalant about your safety. But at the same time, there are also cyclists that almost refuse to be safe anyway. So yes, motorists can see you, but it doesn't mean you must be, cocky on the road, or cycle with entitlement. Yes, you belong on the road as much as everyone else, but if it's between you and the car's going to win. So you need to be careful. I think everyone has a right to be on the road. I mean, even just something as basic as pedestrians. Our drivers don't respect pedestrians. In any other country in the world, pedestrians are like first class, they get like priority on the roads. I mean, in the US, you hit a pedestrian, you have a lot to pay, you have a hell to pay. So I think we need to almost relook at that. That, if you're in your car, then you should be prioritized last in terms of use of the road. Pedestrians, cyclists, motorcyclists, then cars. In my country, that's how I'd run it. I think everyone has the right to be on the road. I mean, you drive around South Africa and you almost get a sense that pedestrians don't matter to drivers. And, if you don't care about pedestrians, why are you going to care about a guy on two wheels? And, you go to other countries and other parts of the world, and, the pedestrian is king. I mean, if you hit a pedestrian in the US, you have hell to pay. And, you hit a cyclist, you have just as much hell to pay. So I think in terms of prioritizing and looking at safety and vulnerability, pedestrians, I think, should always have right of way over anyone else, followed by cyclists, motorcyclists, and, people in cars. So that's what would happen if I ran a country. You know what? I think the 1 meter is a decent compromise. Um, I'd prefer that cyclists had their own lanes. But, in the absence of having your own lane, then I think the 1 meter is a fair compromise. I think the one thing motorists and cyclists need to realize is that, you both have the right to use the road, and you ought to respect one another, and, be as safe as you possibly can be. But, if there's a love-hate relationship that carries on the way it is carrying on, we're going to continue having casualties. So, let's both use the road. I think government has a responsibility towards cyclists, and I don't think enough is done. I mean, I remember when I was in primary school, at my school, you're not allowed to cycle to school until you've done a cycling proficiency test. So you'd be tested to see how proficient you are. Do you know the rules of the road? We were kids, we were 8, 9, 10, but we knew the rules of the road. We knew, for instance, not to ride on the pavement. Just the basics. We knew about safety, using your helmet, what to do when you get to a stop sign. And, if you didn't have your cycling proficiency badge, the school didn't allow you to cycle to school. So I think schools also need to maybe play a part. But I think government definitely has a responsibility to ensure that everyone is safe in the country. Safe like cycling suggestions is, I think, always think of yourself first as a cyclist. So for instance, do you have a helmet? Do your brakes work? Don't be erratic on the road, and be as visible as you possibly can be. I think these are things you take for granted. I've been cycling for 10 years. All of a sudden I don't need a helmet because I've never fallen or bailed. But you need to be safe at all times, regardless of whether you've fallen or bailed before or not. International best practices, I think Generally, wherever you're cycling in the world, know the rules of the road in that country. Know what the signs mean. Um, Again, be visible at all times, have your helmet on, make sure your brakes work. Um, for instance, the, the, the days where I'm riding in my car and there's a cyclist on the road with us, and then they'll disappear because they've decided they're going to take a pavement and then reappear out of nowhere. And be visible at all times. Don't have people guessing or saying, oh, flip, a cyclist out of nowhere. So, be visible at all times. I've also been told that make as much eye contact as you possibly can with other drivers on the road so that they acknowledge you. They see you and know that, yes, you're on the road with me. I think those are some of the basics that I know. I cycle because the older you get, the more down south your body decides to go with you. And, it's just, I do it to keep fit. I've loved bicycles since I was a kid, from having a BMX to having my first Concorde 10-speed racing bike. So, I've always loved bikes, and I think it's a perfect way to be fit, and hopefully one day we'll be commuting on our bikes because it's safe to do so, and also because maybe there are cycling lanes, or you live within a certain radius of work. But I think cycling first before anything else. And you're healthier. If you're healthier, your mind is clearer. You get to work sweaty, but hey, price to pay. I think, what was my answer again?
Well, you can change it.
Do I feel safe when I'm cycling? Not all the time. And I think that's why I try and cycle at times that work for me. When there are fewer cars on the road, you cycle in groups so that you're more visible because there's a whole lot more of you on the road. So I think little things like that, working around how much traffic and how many cars there are on the road, will keep you safer than not. So I prefer to do that. But generally, some motorists care that the other people using the same road that they're entitled to, but other motorists don't. So I think always be a defensive cycler. I did an advanced driving course. So I apply those principles even when I'm on my motorbike, even when I'm on my bicycle. I'm always thinking ahead, anticipating the move of the next car, the next person on the road, even a pedestrian. I mean, pedestrians are almost as erratic walking as some people are driving. So yeah, man, I think always think safety.